my God, guys. I just finished watching TNA Rebellion. Oh my God. Three TNA returns. One wasn't good enough. Two wasn't good enough. But three TNA returns all in one night. Oh my God. This was a what was just an incredible show. My God. I mean, my Santana comes back. Um, of course, this time he's solo, and then uh, Sami Callihan returns to TNA, which I thought it was highly suspected that maybe he was going to go to AEW or somewhere else when his contract went up last year. And then to top it off, broken Matt Hardy, who we haven't seen in AEW for a while, but have been teasing that maybe he would perhaps come back to WWE, but that wasn't the case. He comes back to TNA at the end of the show, right after Moose retains against Nick Namath, in a really good main event between the two for the TNA World Championship, and attacks Moose. The lights go out three different times tonight, and the second time it went out, it was Sami Callihan, and this time it went out, it was Planet Tron, and I'm like, what's going on here? And all of a sudden, just as the system was going to try to celebrate with Moose the same way how his celebration was interrupted at Hard to Kill when Nick Namath debuted, now here comes a return of Broken Matt Hardy. Broken Matt Hardy. This is absolutely insane. Oh my goodness. I mean, what a way to come back. And this is not the first time Matt has come back to TNA since he's been in AEW. He did have a brief comeback. He did briefly come back when he was with Private Party in 2021 when they had that short partnership with each other during the early stages of the pandemic. But this is like the first time he's come back in full broken Matt Hardy character. And wow, I gotta say, this was insane. I did not expect this at all. Broken Matt Hardy makes a return, like I said, in a really good main event between Moose and Nick Namath. I suspected that Nick Namath, the way they were building this here, of him, saying Moose saying he's never been able to beat the system, him saying that he's doubted himself. People have saying things about him for years. Even Tom mentioning on commentary that it's been 11 years since he's been a world champion, referencing to that classic, you know. Time he cashed in the Money in the Bank the night after WrestleMania 29 as Dolph Ziggler won the World Heavyweight Championship from Alberto Del Rio at the time, but held it for a short period of time because I think he ended up getting a concussion and then he dropped the belt to Alberto like the next show, the two pay-per-views later at Payback. But anyway, um, you know, it definitely seemed like uh, the way they were booking this thing, you know maybe they would have Nick do it, or perhaps they will hold off. I was thinking in the back of this, I'm like, if Nick doesn't win it here, especially because Moose his reign just started at Hard to Kill. If he doesn't win it here, perhaps he'll win it at Slammiversary. But the way that this show ended, now it's got me thinking maybe they're going to go in a different direction and perhaps push Nick Namath a little bit longer before he goes against Moose for that. Before he wins that title, the TNA. I still think he's going to do it, but I think they're just going to wait a little bit longer, which makes perfect sense. This is a whole new breed for him. Being in WWE as long as he was, spent almost nearly 20 years there. If you go back from maybe 2004, 2005, 2006, the only time I can really remember him being on the roster with the Spirit Squad, but I think he was in the developmental before that, maybe in '05 and '04. So he was there for a very long time, but I got to come to a whole new company, and I know he's got championships in two other promotions right now. I think New Japan and NWA, if I'm not mistaken. But you know, I wouldn't have suspected him to win so soon, but definitely a good match between them, especially once the system got ejected. And Moose, surprisingly, I really thought Nick was going to kick out of the spear, but he beat him with just one spear in this match, which really surprised me. I really thought Nick would kick out, but but he did not get to hit him with the danger zone. He did hit Moose with a spear, and Moose kicked out. About 3 to 4 famouser was done in this match. You had two power bombs that looked pretty vicious that Moose hit on Nick, one inside the ring, one outside the ring on the stage. Was looked pretty brutal. One of them actually, I think the one on the stage was the one that knocked the camera down, and the screen turned green for a second. The one of the LEDs or one of the lights at the bottom. So it was definitely a really good back and forth match between you know pinfalls after pinfalls, sequence after sequence. Even the famouser he hit on Moose from outside of the ring. I thought that was pretty sweet. But ultimately, the spear was what Moose did. Hit Nick with to retain the TNA World Championship on his own without the help of the system. Um, because the system did get involved early on with Alicia Edwards grabbing his foot, but the ref seen it and ejected him out of it. And he had his father and his brother Ryan Nemeth watching at ringside, and he lost clean, and out comes Broken Matt. Which him losing clean and how quickly they kind of stopped it. It definitely seemed like something was about to happen. But man, I did not expect this to happen. Now I have not seen Matt in a while. Um, but I mean, him and his brother, they were doing some things. It did seem like maybe Jeff was going to turn heel or something in AEW. Matt has been, kind of on and off too. So, it, I gotta say, man, this, this was something. And to think, TNA was the place that Matt Hardy started this whole Broken Matt gimmick. This is where he thrived with this gimmick of Broken Matt, and eventually Jeff with the Nero and the Willow character in TNA. Didn't really get to see much of it when it was in his heyday, but I'm still looking back at some old footages, kind of learn more about the character and such. But man, this was just this was just unexpected, just a huge pop. And like I said, one of three returns, but a really unexpected way to end the night, but a really, uh, like I said, a great main event, really good main event, and overall the show was just amazing. But these returns, man, they really came out of nowhere. Particularly this one with Broken Matt Hardy. I did not expect Sami Callihan to come back either. Um, because Sammy, like I said, let's talk about that for a second. So, Broken Matt ends the night. I had to bring that up first because that was just out of nowhere. I said, wow. I mean, this crowd went crazy. He hits the twist of fate on Moose and holds the titles. Now he's also going after Moose. It's like Moose is getting challenger after challenger. I don't think a Broken Matt would win it, but I'll be highly surprised if he be the one to dethrone Moose. Part of me still feels like Nick is gonna eventually win that belt, but he's getting some good challengers, so that's good. To keep him with some challengers as champ, especially after he beat Alex Shelley clean. Beat Alex Shelley for that hard to kill. Retained that no surrender to beat Eric Young as sacrifice. Um, but it'll be interesting though. I don't know if they will, do it at Under Siege or maybe, or against all odds, and maybe they'll hold it to Slammiversary like they did with Nick. Maybe they'll have him feud with two other filler opponents or so, two other guys prior to that, like with Nick, and then have that match at Slammiversary. I don't know what direction they'll go, but it'll be very interesting to see how they go with this with Matt. But also, you had the return of Sami Callihan in a match with the co-main event with Jordan Grace and Stefan. I can't even say her full name. Sorry, guys. But Valanter, is that how you say her name? If I'm saying it wrong, I'm really not doing it on purpose, I promise. But this match was kind of all over the place. It started off, just with them, and then the good hands got involved, and then PCO got involved to get them out of the picture. She tried to flirt with PCO, and it didn't work out. Then next thing you know, Khan came out and attacked PCO. Jordan Grace wasn't happy. She wanted, to get in the face of Khan. Khan had taken her down. They were all gonna. It looked like he was gonna try that twick neck thing on Jordan, but then the lights went out again, and out comes Sami Callihan. Sami Callihan takes out Khan. He takes out the good hands and tosses Stephen back in the ring, and Jordan Grace retains the Knockout Championship, as I expected that she would. But man, it was so much going on in that match. For a second, it just made me think. Now AEW does a lot of lights out stuff too, but I was thinking like, is this ECW? It's just so many lights out in this thing. But first the lights went out, and PCO was in there. Then the lights went out again, and it was Sami Callihan. And I did not expect that because Sami, like I said, the last time I remember seeing him, he was still teaming with Rich Swann sometime last year. And I think they had like it was like either a number one contenders match or a tag title match against the Rascals or something. That's like the last time I remember seeing Sami. They were trying to get a shot at the belts at the time, and this may have been before or after Bound for Glory, but they were trying to get a shot at the belts. I want to say it was before, and they ended up losing. I think it was doing the one that like a tournament, ultimately they ended up losing, and that was like the last time I remember seeing him. Then it was like reported that he was gonna he hadn't re-signed with the company, and he was looking to go elsewhere. And then Moxley, because he's good friends with him, was kind of looping for him to come to AEW, but that didn't actually materialize. So it was great to see him back. You know, hadn't seen him in quite a while, but did not expect that at all. If it was somewhere said that he was coming back, I had no idea. So it was definitely a surprise to me to see him come out and come back to TNA. And then early in the night, you had Steve Macklin come out and say how he had proposed, he got a contract to resign, and for the most part, everything he wanted had been fulfilled, but except the fact he didn't have a match. And then Santino Marella came out and told him, he would have an opponent for him, someone coming back to the company, and out comes Santana, um, which was a nice comeback for him. This time, of course, solo. Unfortunately, him and Ortiz had a falling out, so this time around he wants to finish the rest of his career as a single wrestler, which is fine. I mean, like I said, still unfortunate with him and Ortiz. They definitely should have won the tag belts in AEW when they were a team as a proud and powerful a part of the inner circle. They definitely should have won those belts. I definitely feel like there's no reason why they shouldn't have won those belts at least once or twice during the time they were in AEW. But anyway, he comes to TNA, he comes back to TNA, and the fans are, chanting "Welcome home," and it was just nice to see him back and got his win over Steve Macklin. Steve Macklin, this was good for him too because the last two Rebellions he's had quite a run. This was like his first loss of Rebellion since, because 2 years ago at Rebellion, he actually had a surprising win in the triple threat. I believe it was Jay White and Chris Sabin that was in that match, if I'm not mistaken, and he won that. And then last year, he won the TNA World Championship against Kushida at Rebellion. So it was just nice to see him, win. Uh, you know, be a rebellion again this year. Come to think of it, his wife, Deanna Perouza, uh, I don't know if they were married yet when they were both champs last year. I don't know. But anyway, she actually won the Knockouts title at Rebellion last year as well. She won that belt, beating Jordan Grace for it. Um, so yeah, they both walked out as champions last year. Now this year, she's not even with the company anymore. He's still there, but he goes against Santana in a pretty good match. And Santana, got the victory as I expected in his return. So man, 3 returns. Santana, um, broken Matt, which was just amazing, and then you get um, Sami Callihan. So in order, you get Santana, Sami Callihan, and broken Matt. 3 returns in TNA. Just a really really big way for them to come back. Also, elsewhere on the show, the Manhattan Mayhem match between Eric Young and Frankie Kazarian. Really good match. Brutal way the match ended, though. It really looked, it really looked like, you know, it was all types of stuff used in this match, and it looked like um, uh, the way that Eric landed on that table when they did that spot, almost kind of like a Spanish fly. They bumped it to the table and it broke on the side, and how Eric's head hit the table. It looked pretty nasty, but ultimately Frankie won the match against Eric Young. But it was really all over the place. He grabbed like this this weapon that that apparently Abyss was known for using in TNA, and the fans started going crazy with that, but never actually got to hit him with Frankie with it because he was dodged it, and he dodged when Frankie tried to hit him with it. Got speared to a table early in the match. It was just everything you would expect in that type of environment in Manhattan Mayhem match. So that match was really off the charts. The last man standing with Hammerstone and Josh Alexander was really good. They used thumbtacks that Josh took out. It backfired on him when he got hit into it with a Hammerstone, and he really charged on the legs of Hammerstone. Did the figure four the on the ropes. I mean, not the ropes, but the side outside did the figure four on Hammerstone, which looked pretty nasty. At one point, when Hammerstone clocked Josh with his headgear, you know, Josh started bleeding on the ear again, which looked really nasty. And because we all, the backstory of why he's been wearing that headgear this whole time. And so, he was bleeding profusely by the ear at that point in the match, which looked pretty nasty. But that match, that last man standing match, still, it was something. It was definitely something between these guys. I mean, they really brought it. Josh continuously attacked the leg. Hammerstone was, using his power, getting Josh like multiple times in this match. In fact, at one point, it almost looked like Josh wasn't going to get back up, and he just managed to roll himself to, get himself back up before the 10 count. But ultimately, it was a spike on the top of the ring entrance, a spike after getting his headgear back, hitting Hammerstone with that, hit him with a C4 spike on the top of the entrance, and that was what it took to get the 10 count on Hammerstone. So it was definitely a really really back and forth match for sure. Fairly enjoyed that match. I mean, it was just exactly what you would expect. The only matches I would say that were probably the weakest, the Rich Swann match with with Joe Henry, It definitely had a lot of it was weak with the match itself, but the moment with the football, the linebacker that got involved. I can't think. They said his name, but it's not coming to me at the moment. But when he got involved, and it looked like he was going to stop, you know, AJ Francis from getting involved. Only the clock, Joe Henry. Joe Henry had no help in this match. I mean, he was just outnumbered from the get go. Between AJ getting involved and hitting Joe Henry, then that guy getting involved and hitting Joe Henry. So he didn't have any help. But yeah, um, I would say the match itself for that was probably one of the weakest. And then the women's knockouts match, at least in this occasion, Jordan usually has really good matches. Since she's been champ. This particular one, though, the match itself, I would have to say, wasn't wasn't was just a standard match. But what made it special, what made it good though, at least in both occasions, was not really the match itself, but more so just kind of all the other stuff that happened outside of the match. But those two matches, I would definitely have to say, were the weakest of the whole show. Within the actual matches themselves. But as far as like the interference and everything else that happened in them, it was what it was. Probably one of the bigger parts of the matches. And so yeah, I mean, because the interference with the knockouts one that led to a return, so that was nice. And then that one, it led to one of the guys, getting involved on the Rich Swann and Joe Henry one. So you had that happened, but yeah, the opener with Mustafa Ali and Jake something, um, you know, was a really good match. Um, in fact, it nearly looked like Jake something was going to win, but Mustafa Ali used his tactics the X Division title, which I expected that he would. But definitely Jake something got him multiple times in the match, which made it a really good way to open the show with the main show. I also watched the matches during the pre-show as well. Um, you know, but yeah, man, I will say this: my match tonight probably will go to the tag team match. For the tag titles with the system. I thought that match there with the system, Brian Myers and Eddie Edwards against the Speedball Mountain, uh, Mike Bailey and Trent Seven. I thought that match was just incredible, fast paced as you would expect. Just multiple times it looked like they were going to lose the belts in the match. Ultimately, they ended up retaining. And so all of the system still walks out as the champs. I thought that match in the main event were spectacular. Were just really good in my opinion. And so I'll probably say that one. And then the main event was really good as well. But yeah, man, it's just like I said, only title that changed hands on the pre-show, the X Division. I mean, the digital media's belt, Laredo Kid, and beating Crazy Steve, but Spitball Fire retained it. They're still champs, and and then what was that other match on the pre-show? Um, yeah, it's not coming to me. I think it was another match on the pre-show as well, but yeah, man. I mean, this was this is a fairly good show for the most part. Definitely. Uh, oh yeah, the one with the Rascals and you had that match. I didn't get to see who won that match, but you also had that match too. But yeah, as far as the main show, really enjoyed it. Three returns in this show. I mean, TNA is really back. I mean, yeah, man, this was definitely something. So, Santana, Mr. Flex, I just wanted to come on here and talk about that. Like, comment, subscribe. I'll talk to you guys another day. Peace.